This video is going to be my belated reaction to the Detroit Lions 34-31 win over the Packers on Thursday Night Football, a win that puts Detroit's record at 12-1 now, still staying ahead of the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC North race. This win is quite anomalous and unique, if you ask me. You'll probably hear me use those words and words that are synonymous with them throughout this reaction video. Gutsy, tough performance on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, they gave up 31 points. Twice the Packers get the ball, I think, right at or within the 30-yard line, so made it somewhat easy at times. You had clutch throws by Jared Goff, 2 fourth-down passing touchdowns, both to Tim Patrick, I believe, and then some otherworldly decisions by Dan Campbell. Detroit outgained Green Bay by nearly 100 yards. I don't know if you remember all the conversation about total yards and yards per play after Detroit went on the road and beat Green Bay 24-14 just over a month ago. Well, the Lions got a lot more done offensively last night. Goff finished 32 of 41 passing. He threw 3 touchdowns, including, like I said, a pair that were on fourth down. And that's really where Dan Campbell left his mark on this game. It shouldn't be a surprise. It isn't for any of us that have been watching this team, certainly not for you guys as hardcore defense or Detroit Lions fans. He's done it for over 2 years. I think what's unique and most fun at this point to talk about and think about is that the decision to go for it with 43 seconds left on a 4th and 1 or 4th and inches, it's the opponent, how good the opponent is. The Packers defense had done a really good job of stopping or slowing down Detroit's run game. Montgomery and Gibbs, to that point, had 28 carries for 87 yards. I'm talking about prior to the decision that Dan Campbell makes. Campbell acted like he knew the outcome in some of these fourth down situations. There's just almost no reaction at all when he decides to go for it. They show his face, obviously, because they're putting him on the spot, meaning they, the broadcast. It's almost as if he's aware of the fact that it's going to succeed. And I guess when you have a right tackle like Penei Sewell and a great short yardage running back like Montgomery, it probably does feel like a foregone conclusion at times. But I think that even still, that's what makes it so amazing, is that this game tied at 31 with 43 seconds left, 4th and inches, against a Packers defense that had closed off running lanes for most of the night. They're a stout front 6 or front 7, depending on the personnel group that you're in. Now that drive, and ultimately ends up being the game-winning drive, culminating in Jake Bates' 35-yard field goal. That drive started with 2 big completions from Goff on play action. One of them was a 19-yarder to Jamison Williams, and the other was 10 yards to Tim Patrick over the middle. I thought Tim Patrick played a whale of a game. On that drive, what makes Campbell's decision even more unbelievable is that the Lions' 3 runs prior to that play was 1-yard gain by Gibbs, 3-yard gain by Montgomery, and in fact, the play before on a 3rd and 1, Montgomery was stopped for no gain. I think it was a backup safety by the Packers who made a really great tackle down low to force that 4th and 1. Campbell and the Lions called a timeout. They trot their offense back out on the field. And for a moment, I have to digress some and talk about some of the quotes from our guys in the Lions Discord. It's a pretty unique social media environment. I'm not really just trying to advertise it here, but because I run a Discord for the Lions fans and the Ravens fans that are part of my Patreon, it makes it fun for me. It really, I think, improves my ability to react to the game because I get so many opinions and suggestions from people and get to essentially have a conversation during the game, even though obviously we're not in person. But let's get to the scheme, and then I'll talk about the quote that really makes me laugh. It's a tactical advantage that Campbell knew was there. I'm going to show you the play. Most of my reaction videos, of course, I don't show you the play because they're usually done within an hour of the game completing. In this case, it's done significantly later, so I can actually show you the play. The film is out. They run to the weak side out of 13 personnel, and there's no pullers because they were trying not to open up any seams or any gaps for the defense to run through. They get to conversion. It's obviously a 7-yard gain. There's a little bit of a tactical glitch here in terms of attacking NFL defenses in short yardage situations, and I'll try to explain it when I show the film here in a moment. But getting back to one of the quotes in the Discord, I forget exactly who even said it, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I get it. We're putting the offense back out there because we're going to try to draw them off sides because we do, in fact, go for it so much. And something along the lines of, I saw Goff under center and like his demeanor and his stance, and I was like, oh no, this is real. We're really going for this. No one else does that but Dan Campbell at this point. I think it's, and look, my perspective personally, as a Ravens analyst, it has not been good to us. Going forward on fourth down, there hasn't been as much return as there has for Detroit, at least in the last 2 years. So this is a power play, and there's nobody pulling. They utilize Sam Laporta as the pulling guard, and he ends up doubling the outside linebacker. So I'm going to get to the film, which, like I said, I don't normally do in a reaction video, but I felt that it was warranted here. So again, this is after Montgomery is stopped on the third down. And what I think is really cool here is that you have two tight ends to the left and then one tight end who's offset fullback to the right. So watch what Laporta and that tight end, I think it's Zylstra, but I could be wrong. They double the edge defender. Laporta is, in essence, the pulling guard here. Normally, you would get power. So the fullback would try to kick out, in this case, the edge defender, outside linebacker, and then the backside guard would pull and wrap, try to get to linebacker at the point of attack. In this case, the Lions didn't trust or don't want to open up any gaps in that, so everybody's zone stepping. Everybody's stepping to the play side except the guy you can't see here, and you will get a view of it from the end zone angle. It's Penei Sewell. He combos down. So why do I think this is a tactical advantage? Why do I think this is such a smart decision? I mean, you can see the guys are fired up with it. They just went out there and executed that. I don't know how many head coaches in the history of the game make that call. It's obviously impacted by the fact that you have Penei Sewell, but I think the larger point here is the Lions knew that if they go 13 personnel and they put two tight ends on the same side, they know pretty much what front they're going to get. Because there's two tight ends here, this D end, I think it's Van Ness, is head up on the offensive tackle. Look at the angle they've got here. My suspicion, and I can't prove this, is that prior to this play, some point during the game, or maybe even in the first game that they played in Green Bay, Detroit lined up in this personnel grouping and got what they wanted here, which is essentially a 4-eye. So Sewell is going to combo down onto that D tackle, and because it's not a gap scheme, it's not power. Power would be everybody blocking down, and this guard pulling and wrapping like I drew earlier from the all-22 angle. Because he's stepping down, but everyone else is zone stepping, Sewell can release that defensive tackle, 57, to Kevin Zeitler. Zeitler takes him over. Sewell gets the Quay Walker. Huge-ass seam there. Why? Why is there no one there, no one responsible for that gap? These tightly aligned wide receivers by the Lions, this is Ben Johnson's goal line. This is his staple, short yardage goal line situation this year in 2024. Actually, in some cases, they're tighter. The wide receiver is like their feet are there, such that the edge defender in the NFL, we call it an NFL alignment. These guys are always lined up wide. And because he lines up so wide, Laporta and Zylstra are able to combo or essentially double team him. Patrick releases to the inside. So Patrick goes underneath here of the edge defender. And that goes to get, I think it's McKinney, 29. Look at the gap that is there for Montgomery to run through. I mean, the reality is pretty much every running back in the NFL is going to convert that. Montgomery protects the football, finishes off the run. It's a beautiful moment, a play call by Dan Campbell. It's not one that I would make, I'll be honest with you. I don't have those kind of guts, and I doubt if most of you that are listening or watching do either. We said in our Discord, forget who it was, might have been me, that they don't make wheelbarrows big enough for Dan Campbell to carry him around. So I don't know how exactly the guy walks around comfortably. I think that's a tactical glitch against most NFL teams, and Ben Johnson took advantage of it once again. Went for 7 yards. We all know what happens next. Goff slides down on the left hash, 2 seconds left in the game, and then Jake Bates converts it from 35 yards. The Packers' opportunity to do anything was denied. Look, they were scoring at that point. Scored 24 points, I think, in the second half. You knew at some point that Aaron Glenn's defense was going to be overmatched just because of who's out there on the field. No disrespect to those guys. I'm actually going to talk and praise them extensively here at the second part of this video. But I want to talk about Dan Campbell's decision. and what it does to the head coach over there on the other side. I don't know Matt LaFleur at all. I don't have time to. But it kind of seems like some of you identify with this, some of you not. You're playing a video game, like your Xbox or PlayStation or something, and you're trying to finish something. You're trying to accomplish a task, get to the next level or whatever, and your parent has long since told you that it's time to turn it off, that you needed to go to bed or you needed to leave or get up and ready, whatever, go somewhere. And your parent just walks over and turns the game off and doesn't say a damn thing. Just hits the button, and you are left sitting there with nothing you can say, nothing you can do. You're just looking at the TV like, did that really just happen? I was about to beat the game finally. Dan Campbell's decision, I think, in some ways does that to the Packers coaching staff. Maybe it does that to multiple coaching staffs. They thought they might get the ball back, and they had earned it by getting the stop on the 3rd and 1. They just didn't realize the kind of crazy SOB they were dealing with. Actually, I think they do realize it. Dan Campbell goes for it on 4th down. Jake Bates finishes it off. 34-31 win. Detroit's now 12-1. He's got complete faith and belief in what his team can accomplish, even against a quality opponent. The Packers are a playoff team. I suspect they'll win games in the playoffs. They're a worthy foe. They've got a lot of talent. They play really hard, especially on defense. They did provide resistance, still gave up 391 yards, 27 first downs, and despite being handed great field position twice, or perhaps 3 times, they're now 0-2 against the Lions, but 9-2 against the rest of the league. Look, I think Jared Goff was efficient. He threw 2 touchdowns on 4th down, very sharp decision-making. I'll have a video out later today on the 4th down decisions, the 4th down plays that Dan Campbell utilized, Ben Johnson utilized. But I have to talk about the defense. That's got to be the focus here for me, even though they gave up 31 points. So you may disagree with my assertions here. I actually have the Lions record wrong there on this screen, so my apologies for that. I think it's not just unlikely what they did, it's certainly difficult to understand. I am still in disbelief at what the Lions are able to accomplish, getting a win against a quality NFL opponent, meaning the Packers are very good on offense and very good on defense too. For what Aaron Glenn and his defensive staff did, it's impossible in the NFL. And I understand that other people may not have this reaction or share the same opinion. They played quality defense, particularly for the first half, but they also got a second half stop that I want to talk about in a moment. And they did so with UDFA guys on the field and 5 players who weren't in the building a month ago. David Long, Jamal Adams, Quan Alexander. They're all accomplished guys in the NFL. No other team mid to late season 2024 was clamoring or lining up to get those guys. They all ended up in Detroit. Miles Adams and Jonah Williams. Neither one of those guys was on this roster a month ago. Only injuries has opened up that possibility. It's no disrespect to them. It's just reality. Maybe David Long's been there for a month, but I don't think so. That 5 joined a group of players, UDFA guys like Nowaski, Muhammad, Pat O'Connor, Mitchell Agude. It's incredible to me. I've had a lot of fun watching the Lions and the Ravens the last 2 years. For me, selfishly, it's helped me expand my own knowledge, tried to and intentionally open my eyes up to some things I didn't know and things I wanted to learn about. But this, I still think it's impossible. And we just watched it last night as I record this morning. The DB group, the secondary, is intact, so that's helpful. Obviously, Branch got hurt during the game. CD3, who's playing unbelievable. Kirby Joseph, Amik Robertson, Terrion Arnold. Those guys were around, but otherwise, the Lions finished this game with exactly 1 defensive starter in their front 7, and that's Jack Campbell. He led the way with 8 tackles. He did miss a big chance at a sack on Jordan Love. But the guys they had around Jack Campbell during this game, and again, this is no disrespect, so don't get triggered by what I'm about to say, they're not even second-string guys if everyone's healthy. I don't know how you could be anything less than complimentary about what they were able to accomplish, particularly in the first half. I believe Jordan Love is 3 of 7 for 31 yards passing in the first half. He finished 12 of 20 for 206. McNeil actually started the game and then got hurt. So Jack Campbell and McNeil are the 2 guys, the 2 starters, who were surrounded by all those other players who, at this point, were either released by other teams, or they were on the practice squad in Detroit or practice squad for other teams. I know they gave up 31 points, and they needed a historic, crazy, strategically brilliant decision by Jack Campbell to avoid putting that defense back on the field in the fourth quarter. So it's okay for me if someone else wants to have a negative reaction to it. I get it. But there's a reality that needs to be recognized here, in my opinion. And that's, I can't, I'm not smart enough. I don't have a great enough memory, I guess, to think of another team that's done something like this, at least in the last 3 or 4 years. I can't think of one. If you can, please feel free to let me know. And so I'm not just talking about backups. You may disagree with my characterization. I don't even think a lot of these guys are backups. These are third-string players. And Aaron Glenn's guys were able to go out there and compete. Jordan Love, 12 of 20 passing, like I said, 206 yards. He did throw one interception down in the end zone. Would have been huge, but it was called back for a DPI on Terrion Arnold. Josh Jacobs had 3 touchdowns. So from a fantasy perspective, he produced. He had 18 carries for 66 yards. He's a 1,000-yard running back for the 4th time in his career at this point. He's had a great impact on the Packers' offense. And the Packers scored 24 points in the second half, but Detroit was able to, either through game sequencing or just performance on the field, slow him down enough that the time at which Green Bay figured things out and became really efficient on offense was prolonged until the second half. Like I said, they scored 24 points in the final 30 minutes of the game. I think you should expect them to, for real, given the lack of talent that's on the field for Detroit at that point. You should expect the Packers to get a lot done. They didn't in the first half, and that's really the larger point. They weren't productive. They scored 7 points, 2 punts to open the game, also a fumble forced by, you guessed it, CD3 that David Long recovered. And then the big play of the game defensively for me is the stop late in the third quarter. I'm going to kind of relate it to Jack Campbell's decision-making, and this is a 3rd and 9, Terrion Arnold running across the field with Christian Watson. Tackles him short, I think 3 yards short of the line to gain. Keep in mind, this possession is just after Goff had thrown another 4th down touchdown to Tim Patrick. You could almost sense, I don't think they showed Matt LaFleur, and I don't think anyone from an announcing perspective thought, hey, they should go for it. I watched the body reaction, the body language of the Packers players. It's 4th and 3. I think the ball is on like their own 37-yard line. You could almost sense the game that LaFleur had been trapped in by Dan Campbell. Meaning, once Arnold makes that tackle, it's about 4.5 minutes, 4:20, something like that, left in the third quarter. Campbell's decision-making, their style, their willingness to go for it, we enjoy it. I enjoy it. I would never make those decisions. Can you imagine how exasperating it must be for the coach on the other side? The Lions, just went for it on 4th down and threw a touchdown pass to Tim Patrick. Oh, by the way, a guy who was released by another NFL team and had the game of the season for him last night. We get the ball back, the Packers. Throw the ball to our fastest athlete. He gets tackled by Terrion Arnold. It's 4th and 3 from our own 37. We're down 24-21 on the road against a divisional opponent. You punt, right? Always. I'm not so sure Dan Campbell, would have. If I've done that a couple times, forgive me. I don't think that Dan Campbell would have. I don't get the sense that LaFleur was frustrated, but I thought I saw a body language drop in the Packers like, what do we do? Do we have to play their game? If every defensive starter is available for the Detroit Lions, I think you do. If you're the opposing team in some of these situations, I think you do. Now, to go a step further, maybe last night would have been the situation whereas the Packers, you say, they've got 2nd string on the field, 3rd string, if you believe me. We should go for it. I don't know. Actually, the next possession for Detroit after the punt, Detroit went for it on 4th and 1. That's kind of the point. It was a toss play to Gibbs, 4th and 1. McDuffie and Quay Walker, the 2 inside linebackers, made a tackle on Gibbs. He wasn't even close to getting it. But Detroit went for it from their own 31-yard line after LaFleur had just punted from his 37 down by 3. I think you punt if you're Dan Campbell. That's me. You got a 3-point lead. The defense had just got a stop on the aforementioned tackle by Arnold on Christian Watson. I thought Watson looked like a superstar at times other than the critical fumble in the first half. I think you punt if you're Dan Campbell. Nonetheless, he went for it on the 4th and 1 from his own 31. The Packers got the stop. They scored a touchdown, in fact, the second time they got a short field. And in fact, Green Bay scored 10 points in their last 2 drives. I think we knew this. Some of you suspected it, and you were worried, rightfully so, about the talent gap on defense. To me, all of that, the fact that LaFleur didn't go for it on 4th and 3, I wouldn't have personally, punted. And then Dan Campbell and the Lions go for it from their own 31, don't get it. Green Bay scores a touchdown. All of that factors into it, I think, adds up to what makes Campbell's decision with 43 seconds left to go for it so unique, so rare. I have no idea what national media is saying today about it. I don't watch that shit. I don't have time to, even if I wanted to. I think this is a special win for you guys. That's just my initial reaction. Again, recording this Friday morning after watching the game Thursday night and then rewatching a little bit of it this morning, excuse me. I think Packers fans are obviously going to complain about various things. The penalty on the offensive pass interference, right, that negated the touchdown. Let them. Don't let them ruin your appreciation for what just happened, because for me, in my opinion, at least on 2 levels, what the Lions just accomplished is extremely rare. Like I said, the score that I have there on the front is wrong, or the record, is wrong. They're not 11-1, they're 12-1. It's a very good win over a tough divisional opponent that's extremely motivated to beat you, and in this case, another Lions victory. And unfortunately, the reality is because of your first place schedule from winning the division last year, you'll now face the Buffalo Bills, who are in first in their division and won their division last year. This is a unique story for me. I'm not sure that I was able to encapsulate it in a quality fashion for you guys to enjoy it. So feel free to let me know in the comment section if you think I missed things. I did gloss over large portions of the game. To be honest with you, my wife and I were at a Christmas symphony for parts of the first half, so I was extremely tempted to keep up with the score and everything during the first quarter. I was able to watch from the second quarter on, but in that situation, you don't keep up with the game score and the gameplay while you're sitting next to your wife watching a Christmas rendition of various famous songs. And then I was able to watch the second half and chart it finally. So I'll have a little bit more film study videos out this afternoon. The first one I will look at will be the 4th down play calls, the one that I just previewed in this reaction video, and then the 2 touchdown passes from Goff to Tim Patrick. That really, those 3 decisions end up being the difference. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy my reaction video to their 34-31 win over the Packers, even though I've got some of my graphics wrong on the screen, if you think other Lions fans would enjoy it, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.